Hi, everyone. I know I'm the person you're all here to see tonight, so thank you for coming to Northern Stage. I'm Jason Smoller. I'm the managing director here. Before I lose your attention, please note that in the event of an emergency, you would come down and use these lower exits that you came in through. However, during this event, if you need to use the restroom, go use the upper exits if you're able. That way you're not disrupting the flow here and everyone can see. I would ask that you not eat food in the theater. That is our standard ask, and it looks like no one is doing that, so thank you. Restrooms are in the lobby here on this side if you didn't see them on your way in. And we're very proud to be hosting Congresswoman Becca Balint here. Thank you for coming to Northern Stage. With no further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Jessica Nordhaus, who works in the Congresswoman's office.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you to Northern Stage and all the staff who is here to support this evening tonight. We're very happy to be with you here. My name is Jessica Nordhaus. I am serving currently as interim state director in the Congresswoman's Vermont office. We're based up in Burlington, and we also have a satellite office in Brattleboro, and we will have plenty of opportunities to share our contact information. We've got a great crew here tonight from our office. Morgan and Carolyn are down here. Owen and Gus, I think, are still tidying up front, but we're all here to answer your questions after, of course, you get to answer the answers to the real questions that you have. So what we're gonna do tonight is, first I'd like to recognize any of the elected officials that we have in the office, in the theater. If you're here, can you give a wave? Right. Senator White, thank you so much for joining us, and she's a great person to take your more localized issues to if you need answers to those. So the Congresswoman is going to give brief remarks, and then we're going to move into a question and answer period. Our goal tonight is to get to as many questions as possible in as seamless and fair a way as we can. And so we've devised a system of tickets. If you picked up a ticket on your way in, if you would like to ask a question, that's going to be your ticket to the question queue, ticket to the lottery. If you would like one right now, please flag down one of our staff members. If you'd like to ask a question, we'll make sure we get one to you. But we will have a drawing system that I will explain after we get going. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you the woman who needs no introduction, Congresswoman Becca Balint.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Is the mic working? Everybody can hear me? Okay. Before we get started, I just want to say, I know you've heard that federal employees are not being paid right now, and that is true for my staff as well. So I just want to acknowledge all of their hard work. They've been working for weeks now during the shutdown without any compensation, and I am only as good as my team, and they're going above and beyond. So I just want to acknowledge that. So as you know, we're in the middle of a government shutdown. And I thought I would just get some of the things out of the way at the top to explain a few things related to the shutdown, to kind of clear that up, or at least set the stage for deeper questions later. Because I get two questions a lot about the government shutdown, and so I want to start with those. And I was actually doing Vermont Public the other day, and there was a caller, and he said, I don't understand why Democrats just don't agree to what he said was a clean, continuing resolution to open the government. And it's a fair question. It really is. It's a fair question because people are suffering right now. If you are an air traffic controller, you are working without pay. I met with federal employees up in Milton. They feel completely embattled right now. And so it's a fair question. So I want to explain something. The Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. And we knew that we were coming up against a funding deadline. and leadership on the Democratic side said to Speaker Johnson and to Leader Thune in the Senate, hey, we've got to come together to make a plan for how we're going to keep the government open. And this discussion has to include health care, because the ACA subsidies are going to run out. And we know that for many people, they're going to see double-digit increases in their premiums. And as I have learned since this president was sworn in, is that they will not do anything unless he says they may do it. And the word from Trump at that time was, do not, under any circumstances, work with Democrats. We don't need them. We don't need to make a deal with them. We don't need to engage with them. And that's literally what happened. There were no meetings that happened between leadership to try to come to an agreement. And so then you might ask, well, why do you need an agreement now? Like, why couldn't you decide, make a deal to open the government, short-term funding, and then basically have a handshake that eventually we will have a discussion about what to do about the ACA subsidies? Here's the problem with that. People are making decisions right now about whether they can afford their health care. It's this time period. Open enrollment is now, which is what we kept saying to the Republicans. Open enrollment is now. Nobody wants to make a decision about their health care if they don't know they're going to have those subsidies to help them pay for it. And what is shocking to me is that there was no also understanding that we have been lied to for 15 years about health care, specifically around the ACA, okay? When the ACA, when the Affordable Care Act, when Obamacare was first passed, immediately the Republicans moved to repeal it. There have been, depending on how you calculate the votes, there have been between 70 and 100 votes in the Congress to repeal, defund, replace Obamacare, okay? In that 15 years, the Republicans have never once brought forward a plan for health care, not once. And so forgive me if I don't have a lot of confidence when they say, trust us, sign on to this agreement, and we'll get to it. Because what they have wanted from the beginning was to destroy the Affordable Care Act. So you can understand why we would not be interested in making an agreement that does not include an actual bill that will extend the subsidies. And then we can have a policy discussion about, should it be for a year? Is this the best solution to health care? Should it be for 2 years, and during that time we have a bipartisan commission to work on health care? Whatever it is, you get to that after you actually have a plan to deal with the emergency right now, and they have not offered one. So I wanted to start with that because, as I said, it's a fair question because people are hurting right now. The other thing I want to address is, because a number of people talked about it, is this crisis that we're having right now around food insecurity. And I don't assume that everyone in here is a Democrat, and so I just want to give you sort of the history, because I was a history teacher. I was a social studies teacher before I was ever in elected office. We have never had, in any government shutdown, food assistance not paid. Never. We have never, as a government, decided that people would go hungry while people in Washington were trying to figure out a plan. So that has never happened before. The other thing is that the money is there. That's the other piece I want folks to understand. The president made a decision not to release the funds. The funds are there, which is why we have had numerous federal judges now ruling that he needs to release the funds. What he's doing is illegal, okay? We got another good ruling today. It may still be a while before that money is flowing. I know I want to give a shout out to our state legislators. They worked together on the E-Board to make sure that we would have some state funds going out. It's not enough, but it is something to get to people. But this is, it's a time when everything is unprecedented. We've never had a shutdown when a president, when we were in a domestic crisis, left the country. It's never happened before. We've never had a government shutdown when the Speaker of the House has disbanded the members of the House. And as I said, I was a history teacher. The framers never imagined there would be a Congress that didn't want to retain its own power. And by that, I mean your power. That's what is so shocking about this, that it's your power. When we are not there doing our work, you don't have a voice in government. So I want to get to a conclusion and open the government back up. I do not want our federal workers working without pay. I don't want our air traffic controllers under the kind of stress and anxiety that they are under. But I do not want to pit hungry people away from other people that need health care. That's not a win. That's not a win. And so this is what is so disturbing for all of us who ran for office to do good work for people. Let's have a policy discussion, but let's not pit Americans against each other for scraps. And that's what's going on right now. So that's why I am standing firm in this. We are hearing some talk on the Senate side, because the Senate, I never thought I'd say good things about the Senate, but the Senate has actually been working. They've been there. They've been trying to pass other bills. The House has been completely disbanded by this Speaker. It is a dereliction of duty and responsibility. So despite all this, I am hopeful. I am feeling very hopeful. And not just because I was very pleased with the election results on Tuesday. I was also pleased because as I travel around the country, I was recently in Illinois and out in New Mexico, I see a lot of people across the political spectrum really waking up to what's happening and understanding that we do not have to demand from people that they change their political identity for them to understand that actually we're heading in the wrong direction. And that's the work that I try to do day in and day out. I don't need a litmus test right now for who's on my team. What I want is, do you believe in the Constitution? Do you believe in the rule of law? Do you believe in due process? Okay, I want you on my team, and we can figure out some of the other details later. So I'm happy to be here. I always say in these particular situations, it's an ask me anything kind of deal. I'll answer to the best of my ability. I'm a straight shooter. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. Let's open it up. Let's get to it. Thanks so much for coming out.
All right, so this is the fun part. As we said, our goal is to get to as many questions as we can. And so what we'll be doing, we call this our bin of government transparency. We have your tickets in here, and ticket stubs in here. So I'm going to be calling 4 numbers at a time. And if you hear your number called, please make your way, if possible, to one of the aisles, and one of our staff members will come to you with a mic. If it's not possible, give a wave, and we'll figure out a way to get to you. So we'd love you to keep your questions concise, 1 to 2 minutes, perhaps.
And you can also make a statement if you want. Yeah, fine.
Congresswoman has offered you can also make a statement.
If there are things you want me to know, and you don't have a question, you just want me to know something,
Yep.
That's fine too.
Great.
Yeah.
And then once you've asked your question, if you could have a seat and listen to the answer, that would be terrific. And then after, we'll proceed after some questions are drawn, some are asked. All right. I have to do lots of things with my hands and my mouth at the same time, and it's hard. Ticket number 536-3406. This is a tip. They all start with 536. I'm going to give you the last 4 digits. 3406.
3406.
3426. That's tricky. 3430
Okay, so I see some hands here. Yep.
and 3431. So I'm gonna have to give this a shake, clearly.
Okay, so while they're getting settled and they figure out who's going to ask the question, I got to tell you, I was stopping in Middlesex the other day to get a cup of coffee at Red Hen, and I'm walking across the parking lot. A woman is looking at me in kind of a funny way, and I was getting a little self-conscious, and so I'm just walking to my car, and she said, "I'm sorry, it's just that you look so much like Becca Balint." I said, "I am Becca Balint." She said, "I thought you'd be taller." All right, what do we got?
All right, we have the first question coming from,
We got Sue.
Hi, Beck.
Hey, Sue.
I wanted to first say how important you were to me in those horrible 2 years I was in the legislature. I had many days I didn't think I'd get through, and then I'd see you in the hall or we'd chat, and it would just
Thank you.
bring
Thank
me
you
back.
for telling me that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So the question I have
Yeah.
is, I'm feeling so hopeless. And you're one of the reasons, again, that you're down there. I know enough to know that we're in such good hands.
Thank you.
I don't feel like I know what to do here.
Yeah.
And, what can we do for you? What can we do for each other? How do we not sink into the slime of despair?
Yeah.
And that's not much, so take
Yeah,
your time.
yeah. I really appreciate that question. I actually get some version of that a lot of the times that I'm out talking to people. I'm going to tell you what I do. I'm going to tell you my daily practice. And I was just saying to someone, one of the reasons why I like to do public events is so that you can all see I'm okay. I'm doing all right, looking pretty good. It takes discipline to be hopeful right now. It really does. It's a practice. And so I start every day I don't start by looking at my phone or looking at a screen. I sit and read for an hour of uninterrupted time to focus my mind. And sometimes it's history, and sometimes it's politics, sometimes it's psychology or behavioral science. I make myself focus on big ideas. And then I meditate. I always say I'm not a very good meditator. I have squirrel brain, but I make myself do it. And then I get outside. That's what I do every single morning. I get outside and I remind myself that I am part of something so much larger than myself. And I do similar things when I'm in DC. When I feel that despair, the first thing I say to my staff is, I'm getting outside. And I go outside and I feel the wind on my face, and I hear the birds, and I see people that I know. And again, it's a discipline. Some days I don't feel like doing that. Some days I just want to sit on my couch in my apartment in DC and drink coffee and scroll on my phone and doom scroll, okay? But I am disciplined about it. The other thing that I want to say about this is I find hope and joy in all of the people that I come into contact throughout the day. And again, it's a practice. It is, what is that person doing right now that is actually striving beyond what they thought was possible? And this is the universal experience. This is a longer answer to the question than perhaps you wanted, but okay. We as human beings are inspired and experience awe the most when we see other people striving beyond what they think is possible. So it's important that you have in your news feed, if you are on social media, making sure you are following people that are inspiring, making sure that you're following people that are not just raging all the time. You have to curate it for yourself. And you say, what can we do? The most important thing that we can do right now here in Vermont is build the fiber of our communities back together, because it has started to happen here, where we have started to see each other as enemies and not as neighbors. And so it feels like, does it make a difference? It absolutely makes a difference. Because what I hear over and over from Vermonters is, I don't want to hate my neighbors. I don't want to feel like this. And the antidote to that is to continue to find opportunities to bring people together in your town and in your community. And you got to band with other people to do that. That is how I have found we get through these times together. And I haven't lost hope. I'm in the belly of the beast every day. I've not lost hope. I haven't. There are too many amazing people doing astonishing things right now. And by amazing people, I mean just regular people who are working hard in this moment. So, thank you for the question. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Susie Richardson, hi.
Hi.
First, I want to thank you so much for having our backs. We have, as do you, a lot to worry about, and it's a relief not to have to worry about who's standing up for us out there. My question ties into the health insurance issue that you mentioned at the beginning, tied into the shutdown. We've got hopefully a reversal of Medicaid cuts. The expiring subsidies are on there, but there's more to this that I'm pretty freaked out about.
Okay.
So Vermont Digger reports that, someone in my age range, a couple, for example, could be having to find out now that they're having to pay as much as $44,000 in premiums. And I've had anecdotal firsthand experience that this is not hyperbole. This is happening. These letters are coming. In addition, we've got Vermont Blue Cross Blue Shield struggling to stay solvent prior to all of this.
Yeah.
And I get that we have to triage, got to, focus, the first things first kind of thing, but I really want to understand and have a sense from you what the research, your research and analysis that you have access to tells us about where are we in terms of the viability of, because we're going to have a domino effect.
Yeah.
If we lose Blue Cross Blue Shield, one of, if I understand it right, two primary providers that we have access to in the state, our hospitals are going to keep closing. The systems, this is this year. What are the letters going to look like next year? So it's a sustainability question,
Yeah.
and how much trouble are we is my question.
So, in the interest of full disclosure, I have been absolutely consumed with things at the federal level. So I have not been following things as closely, but certainly get news from my staff about the precarious situation that our health system is in Vermont. And I'm certainly a consumer of that healthcare system. We were already struggling before the nearly $1 trillion cut to Medicaid that was put in I call the big brutal bill earlier in the summer. And we had warned people, this is going to impact not just people who are on Medicaid, it's going to impact the hospital systems, specifically hospital systems in rural areas. Obviously, most of Vermont is rural. So that is a strong concern, so which is one of the reasons why we have to try to reverse those cuts. Now, the premium issue, we have gotten we have been in touch with Michael Fisher, who's a healthcare ombudsman. He has done a lot of work in crunching the numbers on the subsidy increases. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not good, but some of the numbers, I think, in the press have been perhaps a little bit more extreme than people might experience. That doesn't mean they're still that they're still affordable. They're not, right? These increases aren't. So what we have gotten, the latest that we've seen is a couple living together making $82,000 a year was able to get a qualified health plan for $578 a month with the tax credit. It's just for an example. Without the tax credit, that same plan would cost them $2,500 a month. Right? Right? So this is the fight. That is the reality of it. The trouble with all of these things is some people are on the Affordable Care Act, right? Some people are on the marketplace. Some people on Medicare. Some people are on private insurance. And so depending on what they're hitting, it's not touching everybody. So it's like this rolling sort of devastation, right? But what gets lost in all of this is even if they're going after the ACA subsidies or they're going after Medicaid, it touches all of us because all of our premiums are going to go up and healthcare facilities are going to close. And so I don't have an answer to your direct question, which is how are we going to save healthcare in Vermont specifically, right? That's really what we're worried about. But you have a follow-up?
Well, it is my bottom line, but I think we may just be a canary in the coal mine.
Yes, I said that in a committee hearing the other day. I believe we in Vermont are one of the canaries in the coal mine. And so that is why I'm not caving on this issue. That is why, because it's for all of you.
So we've had a request. We have members of the press in the audience. If you're comfortable, if you would share your first and last name and the town you're from when you ask your question, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
Hi, Rick Walker. I'm a student at Middlebury College.
It's good to see you again.
Came a long way for this, everybody.
We, at the beginning of the shutdown, you spoke on Prop 50 in California, which got passed this Tuesday. Do you think that your congressional colleagues in Democratic Party is willing to move this victory of redistricting California across the country to extend that to some other states and to balance out the gerrymandering efforts of the Republican Party?
Yeah, thank you. And so just to remind everybody, California did pass Prop 50. It was an overwhelming vote. And I just want to point out, they took it to the voters to ask them, which is not what happened in Texas, okay? So I want to draw that distinction. The other thing that was part of Prop 50 was if Texas withdraws its plan to gerrymander out 5 Democratic, seats, if they withdraw it, then California will not go through with their plan. So there was a fail-safe, okay? So I just want people to understand that. What I have heard from my colleagues and also from various governors around the country is that people are looking at essentially, in their minds, partnering with a red state that is planning to gerrymander. And if they're planning to do it, if they have roughly the same amount, they're going to punch back. I think that is the only response right now. Is this good for the country, for us to be gerrymandering our way to this? No, this is terrible. But I want to point out that the ask came from the president. The ask to the governor was find me 5 seats. In the same way, after the 2020 election, he said, find me 20,000 votes. That's what started all of this. And as Democrats, I should just say, as a former civics teacher, it pains me that this is the road we're going down. But we cannot stand by and let them break all of the rules and gerrymander all of these seats out that were protected by the Civil Rights Act and not respond. So I think that is going to happen.
All right, I'm going to call a few more numbers.
Okay.
So you have time to get ready. I know we may have a 4th questioner, but we're going to get ourselves prepped.
You were the questioner?
Yeah, my husband would have gave it to me.
Okay, that's fine, Becca. You coming down, Carolyn?
Okay, hello, I'm Becca White. I'm from Windsor County. And I will say, yes, I really do have a number, guys, I swear. I'm 3431.
Okay, you didn't make it. Okay.
Yeah. So in this community in the Upper Valley, we had Mosin Madawi, who was taken by ICE. And when that situation occurred, the Upper Valley spoke very loudly, not here, not now, not Mosin.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful
Yes.
for all the people who did that.
Yes.
And for you in particular, because when we reached out saying, this looks a little hinky, your office said, keep us in the loop. We think this smells like a rat too. So thank you for that and all the work you did. But it's getting much worse. it is getting much, much worse.
Yeah.
ICE is taking daycare professionals and toddlers in the back seats of cars, and they're shooting United States citizens. I'm extremely concerned, and I don't know what we can do as a state, and I'm wondering what we can do at the federal level.
Yeah, thanks, Becca. Literally on the way up here, I did a lot of phone calls in the car, and I was calling with a dear friend of mine, Delia Ramirez, who is one of the members who represents Chicago. And 19 of us on the Democratic side, many of us on the Judiciary Committee, went out to Chicago a couple weeks ago to hold essentially a shadow hearing on what ICE was doing in Chicago. And what you say is absolutely true. They are terrorizing that city. And I got to meet with the family members of people who had been arrested and detained. And I will tell you, the big lie, they are not going after criminals. They are not going after dangerous people in their community. They're going after the woman who's been selling tamales on the corner for 20, 30 years. They're going after the daycare teacher. And the lawlessness with which they are carrying out their duties in our name is absolutely horrifying. And there are many of us in Congress who, if we were in session on the House side, would be demanding that we have hearings. We would be trying to move legislation that says, no, you may not be masked and unidentified and whisk people off in a car. Because what we've seen, Becca, is people are lying about being part of ICE. Other criminals now know they can buy, a fake suit online and masked up, and nobody is going to stop them. This is what we warned about. When I was sitting in the Judiciary Committee debating this, I said, if you supersize ICE, this is what's going to happen. And so I posted today about that particular case in Chicago. We have to get the words out to people, our family members in other states who may not believe the stories that are happening. I don't think any of us in this room want to be in a society that is hauling people off with masked men, not saying what it is that they're wanted for, not showing any kind of warrant. And I just want to remind people, because I know people get, a couple people over the last few months have come up to me very agitated saying, but they're criminals. And I say, well, what piece of this, are you saying they're criminals? Are you saying all of these people that are crossing are violent criminals? We're like, no, crossing the border is a criminal offense. It's not. It's a civil offense. It's a civil offense. And we're treating them like criminals. And this is a place where I get very frustrated with some of the people who cover the national news that don't push back when they talk about them as if they have a criminal rap sheet because they have crossed the border looking for work. And so we can come together as parties and talk about reforming our immigration system, but what's happening with ICE right now should terrify all of us. And they have arrested over 140 citizens and detained them and not given them reasons. And so every single time that Kristi Noem stands up in front of the press and lies and says we haven't arrested any citizens, I need the press in DC to call her on it. She is lying to us about what is happening in our name. That's what we can do. We got to spread the word. And we got to show up for our people, which Vermont has been doing. Vermont has been doing, showing up for our community members. And we got to keep doing that. So thanks for the question. Yeah.
All right, 4 more. 3371, 3402, 3409, and 3377. And if your question has been asked or your comment already addressed or you've changed your mind, you can stay seated. We will not force you.
Or if you've lost your number.
3371, 3377, 3402 and 3409.
Thanks very much for having this. As I look around, one thing that discourages me is the same thing I see at the rallies and such, that most of the people here look like me, old white people. And we don't get enough young people. I did see one younger person in the audience, but I really think that we need to get younger people involved, and at the rallies as well. I mean, when people say, oh, it's all the old hippies. Well, in Brattleboro, it is all the old hippies.
Because we got a lot of them.
So I'd like to hear from you on
Yeah.
that. Mamdani had the young people out there voting, and that's one of the reasons he won. So he's able to energize that group. And, people like him, AOC, yourself, the progressive side of the party, I think have an opportunity here, and I wonder how we can energize the young people to get back. And I also say, Tuesday was great. The All Kings March a few weeks before was great. So we have a day here, a day here, a day there. Now, how do we get this? How do we get people energized and keep them energized? Because we're going to need everybody energized next November.
Yeah.
That's really the critical time. So how do we do that?
Okay, so a couple things.
What can you do?
Okay, a couple things. Obviously, what happened in New York was extraordinary when you look at where he was even prior to the primary, right? And he ran an extraordinary campaign and was able to mobilize a lot of young people. What you may not know is that when you look at what we call the crosstabs, when we look at who was voting and demographics and backgrounds, actually Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey turned out a lot of young voters. And Abigail Spanberger in Virginia turned out a lot of young voters. And Prop 50 in California turned out a lot of young voters. So they're engaged. I mean, I have teenagers myself, and they will say to me, I'm not going to a rally. I'm not hanging with the boomers. Like, they will literally say that to me. I'm like, what are you trying to say here, right? And it's not that they're not paying attention. It isn't. And they are organizing in different ways. And we have to understand that this is a generation that was deeply impacted by the pandemic. And the way that they organize and the way that they function in groups is different. And it's not bad, it's just different. That being said, we have to have people within our party who are willing to listen more than talk. And you have to be able to sit with people with humility and say, tell us what we don't get. And not come in assuming that you have all the answers. And so this is an important part for me, because week after the election, I was on the C-SPAN call-in show. And you sit in this chair and you answer the phone, and one line is Republican, one line is Democrat, the other's independent. You don't know who you get. And a woman called in, and she was deeply concerned. She said, Trump 2.0 is going to be even worse. There's not going to be any guardrails. I'm beside myself already. We're only a few weeks in. It's terrible. So it must have been after. It was in January. And not after the election, but in January. And then she said, but I didn't vote. And it was the Democratic line. I said, tell me more. Tell me why you didn't vote. And she said, I didn't feel like Democrats were listening to the issues that were most important to me. And I just couldn't do it. Now, I could get my back up and be like, oh, that's why we're in this mess. But no, what I said was, you're right. You did not feel seen. You did not feel heard. And we as Democrats often campaign in footnotes. Now, I'm a historian. I love good footnote. But you can't campaign in footnotes. You got to campaign in headlines. And we have done, we're starting to do more within the Democratic Party here in Vermont for young people. We had a great young person event up in Burlington the other day. It was packed. But I think, the older generation to understand just because you don't see people out there doesn't mean they don't care. It really doesn't. It is a foreign concept to a lot of folks in their teens and 20s. And what we need to do is say, what does activism look like for you, and how can we help support you in that activism in Vermont? So.
Do we have another question? Do we need to draw more numbers? I can do that. Let me read 4 more.
Oh, go for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jesse, nice to see you again. I
Yeah.
first want to thank the staff, both here and in DC. I know you're working your butts off.
They are.
You don't get the front place.
They are.
Thank you. And thank you for fighting for us. We are in a unique situation being Upper Valley because we're so close to New Hampshire. I know you're here as a Vermont rep, and probably most of us here are Vermont residents. I'm also very concerned about our New Hampshire neighbors. I lead Three Rivers Indivisibles. If you're looking to engage, we work really hard with young people. We listen to the 19-year-olds who say, don't sign up. Don't make us fill anything out.
Yeah.
Just let us come. So that's why No Kings was posted, but we said, do not sign up, just show up. And we had record numbers. There were trans youth there, there were young kids there, and they are working behind the scenes with us. So I encourage you to find a way to engage, but be prepared to listen.
Yeah.
It's very, very humbling, and I too was a teacher.
Yeah.
My question is, how do we center marginalized voices and the people who are bearing the brunt the most heavily of what's going on? I feel like we're in the early stages, and we haven't gotten to the really, really hard stuff, even though it feels devastating already.
Yeah.
I also work at a food pantry twice a week as a volunteer. People are sobbing. People are scared. They're not going to make it till next week, so it's urgent, and I'm afraid we're not even to the bad part yet. How do we center those voices that aren't heard, that really could be shaping legislation and what we, for instance, what we should be providing in food banks? The food that they want versus what we think they want, or are cheap or whatever.
Right. Well, that
it's gravely concerning. And there's also, I don't want to take too long, a disconnect.
Yeah.
Right. So someone's hungry and is angry and said, "Oh, but Jess, it's not a Trump thing."
Yeah. Yeah. So let me take the
A lot of disconnect.
Let me take the last part first, if I could.
Thank you.
Because this is one of the hardest things that we as human beings have to do, which is admit when we made a mistake. Nobody is good at that. Nobody is. And so I actually have a tremendous amount of compassion for someone who made a decision at that point in time for whether it was for financial reasons or there were promises made that were not kept. And to have to re-examine your decision is not just about that moment in time. It's a reflection on who you think you are. And I think a lot about how when we ask people to, well, we don't usually ask, we actually yell at them. It's what we do. We yell at them, or we make some disparaging remark. How can you be so stupid? You voted against, quote unquote, your own interests. I've heard that more than I care to say. And, you know, it's true, too, that if you're a Democrat and you're wealthy, you vote against your own interests all the time. We do all the time vote against our own interests for a whole variety of reasons. So one of the things that I'm trying to get my colleagues to think about is that it is about engaging people about where were you when you thought you were making, like what was happening for you when you made that decision? And now there's more information. Would you make the same decision now? And not about shame. Nobody makes a decision, changes their mind because you shame them into it. I don't care what the situation is. So we have to remove that in the way that we're talking, the way that we're communicating, and understand that. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example to make it concrete. I've heard from a lot of people, Trump voters, 50 fill in the blank. Like this is a racist movement, this is a sexist movement, this whatever, fill in the blank. Then when you talk to young men, and I've talked to a lot of young men in Vermont who either did not vote for Kamala or didn't vote at all or drifted towards Trump, a main issue for them was trying to keep us out of foreign wars. That was the most important issue for them. As young men wondering that they're going to go off to fight, they said, I'm going to go with the person who has promised me they're going to keep me out of foreign wars. So that even just that one little crack for me was an insight into what's going on for people. So I really try not to approach it of how could they possibly make this decision. They made it based on a whole set of circumstances that I don't have any idea about. But what's baked into your question, though, is how are people getting their information? And I actually ended an interview today, and the man interviewing me said, well, is there anything that you want viewers to know? I said, what I want viewers to know is that they should take some time looking at a variety of news sources, just so that you know what the different perspectives are on something so that you are aware of it. So your other point, which is a good one, whether it is a policy on food or a policy on healthcare or a policy on reproductive rights, absolutely. The people who should be helping to craft that legislation or that policy are the people who are the most impacted by it. Always. Always. Full stop. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for 2 more questions.
Really? Just 2? I know, you're like, Becca, you go on so long, and then we don't have time to answer as many questions. Yeah, I know. I know that look. I know that look. Seen that look before.
3384 and 3420.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
My name's Robin Osborne from East Thetford. And you made an amazing statement earlier where you said something about the framers of the Constitution never dreamed of a Congress that would give up their power.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's the most incomprehensible to me is, and so I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on why? I mean, there are enough Republicans to band together, and I think they believe in democracy, and I think they believe in the Constitution, but they're not protecting it. So, just curious.
Yeah, no, this is the nut for me that I'm trying to crack. What is it going to take for them, my Republican colleagues, to be honest with their own constituents? So look, if these people were all true believers, I can deal with that. They believe that Trump and the MAGA movement is the thing that is going to solve all their problems. I can deal with that. But that's not what we have. And this is the big open secret in Washington, D.C., as that Republicans, many of them, are not on board. And they mock him. And when the elevator door closes, they talk about how he's absolutely screwing over their farmers if they're in the soybean belt, or how their businesses are being destroyed by tariffs. And so those conversations are happening behind closed doors. And you may ask, like, how could they swear an oath, not just the Constitution, right? That is what we do. We swear an oath to the Constitution. But by doing that, you're saying you are representing the people back home, right? That's what we sign up for. It's not about me, right? I'm a conduit for all of you. And we have asked advocates and lobbyists who work both sides of the aisle to tell us, what are they telling you? And they say what they're telling us is, we're afraid. We're afraid that Trump is going to tweet about us and give out our home address, and that people are going to show up at our door. We're afraid of some members of our own base that are heavily armed. And so a lot of people don't understand that after the January 6th insurrectionists were pardoned they came to the Capitol. The day after they were pardoned, some of them came to the Capitol, and they sat in the balcony and looked down on us as a signal. We're still here, and he just let us out. And so, the only way through is if they band together. That is it. And I would have thought we would hit bottom already. I really would. I would have thought we'd hit bottom already when you have, whether it is folks who are cattle ranchers who are now getting absolutely and totally screwed about what's going on with Argentina, when you see what's going on with soybeans, when you see small businesses across this country who can't possibly survive the tariffs, I would have thought they'd speak up. But so far, they will say, yes, I'm afraid of my constituents. This is the part that kills me. Yes, I'm afraid of my constituents. I'm more afraid of Trump and this administration and what they will do to me. So as a human, I can be compassionate. That's a terrifying thing. As an elected member of Congress, I say, if you can't do the work, you have to get out. You need to get out. And we're seeing some cracks. We are seeing some cracks. I mean, I don't know about Marjorie Taylor Greene's, she's doing a tour, but it's interesting. Josh Hawley has been speaking up more. It's interesting. But that's the piece I wish that, again, I don't want to beat up on the press. We need a free and open press. But right now, they're not doing what we need them to do, which is unmask what is going on here and stop covering for these Republicans who are lying to their own people. Well, look, you had some corporations bend a knee. You had some media conglomerates bend the knee. And I mean, there is only one way to deal with this. We've seen this play before. We know how autocrats operate. This is not a new story. We know how it goes. You try to intimidate people in higher education. You try to intimidate the media and the free press and all the people who have the ability to get messages out. There is only one way to fight it, and that is not to capitulate, because they just keep coming back for more. So there are no easy answers, and I always say there's no easy hack here. There's no like 5-step plan to save the democracy. But what I do know is people are starting to wake up. And you never know what's going to be that one thing. For some people it was Jimmy Kimmel. It really was. For others it is this destroying the East Wing and building the ballroom. Everybody's got their breaking point. And so I'm seeing some cracks, and certainly people who are smart within the Republican Party know they got shellacked on Tuesday. They got shellacked. And so they're seeing the same data that I'm seeing, which is every single precinct in Virginia, even the Republican precincts, shifted multiple points towards the Democrats. And we broke the supermajority in Mississippi, right? So it's not just in overwhelmingly, blue districts. And so the people who are paying attention are looking around and saying, actually, there is going to be life after Trump, and I better figure out where I am when that happens. So, are we out of time, or we got another one? Yes.
Yep, we have our final question over here. Carolyn will bring you the mic.
Never swear.
Yeah, well, sometimes I do. Karen Woodard, I live here. The question I have is, I'm really concerned about the federal government, and I'm glad you're there doing that fight.
Yeah.
But when you're finished with that, would you be governor of Vermont?
Wasn't expecting that. Oh my God. Wow. I wasn't expecting that at all. At all. Well, It hasn't been on my bucket list. It hasn't. Thank you for your confidence in me. I am very, very happy in this fight right now that I'm in. Some of you know that before I was in Congress, I was in the state Senate. And the day that I got sworn in as the first woman ever to be President pro tem of the Senate, it was the same day that the January 6th insurrection happened. And so it was like this incredible high of my life, and then just like this punch to the gut. And at that point, I didn't know whether there would be an opening in the congressional delegation. But in that moment, watching that and just crying for my country, I knew that that's where I needed to put my energy. I mean, I feel like I'm living my life completely on purpose right now. But thank you. It's very kind of you to ask. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So before we go to a few closing remarks, I just want to let you all know that another service our office offers is constituent casework. So one of our constitutional obligations in a congressional office is to help constituents interact with federal agencies. So please feel free to call us if you have issues with your tax return, with the IRS, Social Security, Medicare, VA, any federal agency. Things are moving a little slower right now because our congressional liaisons are furloughed, most of them. But it is an important part of our job. And we have, at the beginning, I introduced Morgan and Carolyn, who's sneaking out front. And we have Owen Doherty, and Gus.
And then Gus is up here.
Up at the back.
Yeah, I love my team.
And we have a few more who are taking well-deserved vacations right now. But we will be here for a few minutes afterwards, and we all have business cards, and we would love to chat with you if you didn't get a chance to ask your question, or if there's something you want to share with the Congresswoman, please be in touch.
Yeah. So just in closing, it does my heart good every time to come home to Vermont and be able to hold a town hall or a round table and see how much you care so deeply about democracy. And I mean the big democracy in DC, but also town meeting and school board meetings and coming together in community. We do have a special kind of relationship with our elected officials in Vermont. It matters that you know who we are and that we show up and you see us in the grocery store, in the post office, and you understand that we are of you. And I always say, it is the honor of my life to have this job. And as hard as it is, every single day when I leave my little apartment in DC and I walk to the Capitol, I look at that building all lit up and I think, I get to represent Vermont in Congress. And the minute that it feels like a burden and not an honor, I will go and somebody else will have a chance to do it. But for now, I am completely and totally focused on the work on behalf of all of you. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Don't lose hope. I haven't lost hope. Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. We're going to get through it. I promise. We're going to get through it. Have a good night, everybody.